What is JSON and what is syntax of JSON? If you guys want to understand about JSON, then watch this video till the end. In this video, we talk about JSON. So let's get started. Hello world, it's Hatim Tekri. In the last video, we have talked about API. So if you guys don't know about API, then watch this video, and after watching this, come back on this. So in that video, we have understand the API. That API is used to communicate between two parties or two entities. So to communicate between two entities or to transfer the data from one end to another end, you need some format of data. So JSON is one of the famous and the best format to transfer the data. JSON is a lightweight format to storing and transporting the data. So JSON is used to transfer the data from server to the web page. So in API, we transfer the data from server end to the front end or the client side, that is web page. So in that case, to transfer the data, we use the JSON format. In the later part of video, we understand or we talk about why we use JSON. Now, at the server end, you use some programming language to manipulate and to create the data. For example, Python, Java, JavaScript, and many other programming languages. So question arises that which programming language you choose to use the JSON format to transfer the data. It's not matter or it is not compulsory to use some specific languages for JSON, because nowadays every programming language have their library or a method to convert their object data which is stored in their object into the JSON format. So it is not compulsory or it is not mandatory to use some sort of programming languages if you want to use the JSON format. Now the another question is why to use JSON and not a plain text to transfer the data? Yes, you can use the plain text to transfer the data, but only if the data is simple. If the data is complex or complicated data, then you have to use JSON, because in plain text, if you send or transfer the data in the plain text format, the complex data in the plain text, then it is a nightmare to handle the data at the client side. But if you transfer the complex data in the JSON format, then it is very easy and lightweight for the client side to handle that data. That's why nowadays programmers use the JSON format. And at the front end or at the client side, we use the JavaScript. So in JavaScript, there is a method to convert that JSON format data into the JavaScript object. And it is easy. It is very common because JSON is nothing but a JavaScript object notation. The JSON format is built on the JavaScript object. So it is very easy to convert the JSON format data into the JavaScript object with the help of JSON.parse method. And if you guys want to send the data from client to server end, client side to server in the JSON, then also it is easy to convert the JavaScript object into the JSON and then send that JSON data to server end. So to convert the JavaScript object into the JSON, we use JSON.stringify method. So this is how the conversion of JSON into the object works. Now at the server end, if we send the data from client to server, so server also have to convert this JSON format data into their own object. So this is also a very easy, because nowadays every programming language have their library to convert the JSON format data into their own object, because JSON is a very easy and a lightweight format to transfer the data. That's why every programming language have created their own library or methods to convert the JSON data into their own object and their own object to JSON data. Now, is JSON is the only format to transfer the data or storing the data? No. In the earlier time, the programmer used the XML format to transfer the data. But after JSON comes into the picture, all the programmers shifted their data format from XML to JSON because the JSON is very easy and a lightweight format. And it is user friendly. That's mean that anyone can understand the data by seeing in the JSON format. So that's why all the programmers or developers use the JSON format. Now at the end, we understand the format of JSON. So JSON is the name value pair data. That's mean the name of the parameter and then the value of that parameter. Now the second point is the object of JSON holds inside the curly braces. That's mean to define an object in JSON format, so we have to write the curly braces, and inside the curly braces we write the name value pair properties. Now to define the array in the JSON format, we use the square bracket. Square bracket is used to define the array in the JSON. So this is the example of object in JSON. So the property inside these curly braces is in the form of name value pair. That this first name is the name of this parameter, and then the Hatim is the value of the first name, and the last name is the name of the property, and then Tekri is the value of the last name. So this is how the name value pair data are formatted in JSON. Now the two properties are separated by comma. So inside the curly braces, we have two properties, and these two properties are separated by comma. So this is how the object is defined in JSON. Now this is the format or the syntax of array. Inside the square bracket, we can put a multiple plain text value or a string value or the multiple objects separated by comma. So if you want to put the multiple objects, then that multiple objects separated by comma and put inside the square bracket. So this is how the array works in JSON. For object, we use curly braces, and for array, we use the square bracket. So if we conclude this video, then JSON is a format to store or transporting the data from one end to another, that is server to the client, or vice versa also from client to server. JSON is a JavaScript Object Notation. So it is easy to convert the JSON format into the JavaScript object using json.parse and json.stringify to convert JavaScript object into the JSON. And every programming language have their own library to convert their own object to JSON format and JSON format to their own object. And in JSON, the array is defined by a square bracket and the object is defined by a curly braces. So this is how the JSON format works. In this video, we have understand the JSON, the format of JSON, and the syntax of JSON. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.